The fleet burned. Admiral Vol watched through the viewport as another Galactic Union cruiser split apart, its hull glowing white-hot before the explosion scattered debris across the void. The Scourge didn't even slow. Their bioships pulsed with sickly green light, consuming everything, converting matter into more of themselves. 3,000 vessels had become 1,500 in 6 hours. "Ma'am, the Tertian line just collapsed." Her tactical officer's voice cracked. "They're through our inner defense grid." Vol's forearms tightened against her command throne. She was Valorian, a species bred for war across 10,000 generations, and she had never known fear like this. The Scourge didn't negotiate, didn't retreat. They consumed. 17 civilizations had fallen silent in 8 months. The Union's combined might was breaking like glass. "Send the evacuation order to all civilian sectors," she said quietly. "Priority exodus protocols. Admiral, if we abandon the line, we've already lost it." She turned from the carnage outside. "We're buying time now. Nothing more." The communication console erupted with distress calls. Vol silenced them with a gesture. She couldn't save them. Couldn't save anyone. The mathematics were brutal and simple. The Scourge grew faster than the Union could mobilize. Every ship lost fed their expansion. Every planet consumed multiplied their strength. Her personal comm chimed. The frequency made her blood freeze. "Admiral Vol." The voice belonged to Queen Shira herself, transmitted across 70 light-years from the Union's capital. "Clear the bridge. This is sovereign-level communication." Vol's crew didn't wait for the order. They evacuated in 18 seconds. The holographic projection materialized above the command console. Queen Shira stood 9 feet tall, her crystalline exoskeleton reflecting 1,000 colors, her 6 eyes holding the weight of 200 billion souls. She looked tired. The Queen of the Galactic Union never looked tired. "Your Majesty." Vol bowed her head. "I'm preparing the retreat order." "Denied." "Ma'am, with respect, we cannot hold. The projections, my era's mandibles." Clicked softly. "I've also initiated Protocol Black Garden." Vol felt her secondary heart stutter. "That protocol doesn't exist." "It does. It has for 23 years. The Queen's image flickered, interference from the battle bleeding through. "Before I was crowned, my predecessor showed me the vault. Told me there was one option we never spoke of, one alliance we'd pretended didn't exist." "I don't understand. Humanity, Admiral? We're calling in the humans."
The word landed like a physical blow.
Humanity. The species quarantined in their backwater system for 2 decades. The species whose first contact had ended with the Union's diplomatic fleet crippled, and 17 ambassadors dead before the humans even realized they'd committed an act of war. They had apologized, paid reparations, agreed to complete isolation. "They're animals," Vol whispered. "Violent, unpredictable. They're survivors." Shira leaned forward. "Every species that joins the Union does so because they've achieved peace." "Harmony. We bring together the civilized. But the humans never achieved peace, Admiral. They dragged war with them into the stars. They don't know how to stop fighting because they've never stopped fighting, not for one generation in their entire history." Another explosion lit the viewport. Vol didn't turn. "One ship." They agreed to send one ship. One ship? The treaty allowed them to maintain a single military vessel for system defense. Everything else was dismantled or converted. The Queen's hologram wavered. "I sent the distress call 4 days ago. They responded within the hour." "They're sending that ship. Your Majesty, the Scourge will... The ship's name is Indomitable." Shira's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "It arrives in your sector in 7 minutes. You will provide it full tactical access. You will follow its commander's instructions without question. And, Admiral? Yes. If we survive this, no one speaks of it. Humanity returns to quarantine. This conversation never happened. The transmission died. Vol stood alone on the bridge, watching her fleet die. 7 minutes. What could one human ship accomplish in 7 minutes? The Scourge bioships numbered in the hundreds of thousands now, each one the size of a city, each one capable of breaking a dreadnought in half. Her tactical display screamed warnings. The Scourge were accelerating, sensing the Union's breaking point. They would punch through to the civilian sectors within the hour. 30 billion souls on the stations beyond. 30 billion lives she couldn't save. The display flickered. A new signature appeared at the edge of the system, moving faster than anything she'd ever seen. No warp signature. No dimensional fold. Just raw, impossible velocity. The computer struggled to classify it, cycling through designation after designation before settling on a single word. Unknown. Kesvol pulled up the long-range visual. The ship that emerged from the dark was wrong. Every vessel in the Union fleet curved, flowed, integrated with the natural physics of space. This thing looked like someone had taken every sharp angle in the universe and forged them into a weapon. Black metal that drank light. No running lights. No identification. Just brutal, uncompromising geometry designed for a single purpose. The communication channel crackled. Galactic Union Forces. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UHSV Indomitable. The voice was calm, almost bored. We're here to save your asses. The human ship accelerated into the firestorm. And the Scourge, for the first time in 8 months, hesitated. The Indomitable cut through space like a knife through water, and Kesvol's tactical board went insane trying to track it. The ship moved wrong, turned wrong. Accelerated in ways that should have turned any crew into paste against the bulkheads. Her sensors registered gravitational shear that would rip apart anything living, yet the human vessel danced through physics like it didn't apply. Indomitable, this is Admiral Kesevol. You're heading directly into their main formation. Pull back and coordinate with... Negative. Captain Chen's voice remained unnaturally steady. Your coordination is what's getting you killed. Watch and learn. The human ship reached the Scourge vanguard. Kesvol expected evasive maneuvers, perhaps a missile spread to test their defenses. Instead, the Indomitable opened up with weapons that made her question everything she knew about warfare. Rails guns. Primitive, kinetic, projectile weapons that the Union had abandoned 3,000 years ago in favor of energy-based systems. But these rounds moved at percentages of light speed, and when they hit the bioships, they didn't just pierce, they liquefied. Turned the Scourge's organic armor into vapor and kept going, punching through 4, 5 ships in a single shot. Impossible, her tactical officer breathed, back at his station without being summoned. Those velocities would require... How much energy is that ship generating? The Indomitable rolled, and something launched from its ventral hull. Missiles, but not like any the Union used. These burned with chemical rockets, leaving trails of fire that looked obscene in the tactical display. Primitive. Ancient. They hit the Scourge bioships and detonated. The explosions were nuclear. Not fusion, not antimatter. Pure fission warheads that the Union had banned as barbaric weapons 8 millennia ago. The radiation alone should have poisoned the entire sector. But Kesvol watched as those ancient bombs tore through the Scourge formation like they were made of paper, the bioships shrieking electromagnetic death wails across all frequencies. They're using atomic weapons, someone whispered. They brought nuclear warheads. The Scourge adapted quickly. They always did. Their bioships began coordinating, moving to surround the Indomitable, bring their superior numbers to bear. 100 ships converged from all angles, energy weapons charging to overwhelm any possible defense. The human ship's engines flared blue-white. "What are they—" Kesevol began. The Indomitable accelerated directly into the thickest concentration of enemy vessels, not toward an opening, not seeking escape, into the heart of them, at speeds that turned physics into a suggestion. And then it started spinning. The entire ship became a weapon. Whatever engines pushed it didn't just provide thrust, they let it maneuver like a fighter craft, despite being 3 kilometers long. It spiraled through the Scourge formation, railguns firing in all directions, point defense systems creating a sphere of destruction around its hull. Bioships trying to ram it encountered armor that didn't yield, didn't break. They shattered against it. Their hull composition, the science officer stammered. It's reading as steel, iron-based alloys. That can't be right. It's right, Kesevol said softly. They never stopped using metals, never developed composite materials. They just made their primitive materials strong enough to work. The Indomitable emerged from the formation trailing debris, not a scratch visible on its hull. Behind it, 73 Scourge bioships drifted as expanding clouds of organic matter. Captain Chen's voice came through, still maddeningly calm. "Admiral, I'm transmitting tactical data. Your remaining ships need to form a sphere formation, overlapping fields of fire. The Scourge attack in waves. Stop thinking like prey. We're not. You're running. Prey runs. Predators hold ground and make the enemy bleed for every inch. A pause. I'm sending my tactical AI to your flagship. It'll coordinate your fleet. Follow its instructions exactly. Warning klaxons blared across Kessvol's bridge. Captain, we don't allow foreign AI systems in our networks. Security protocols are why you're dying. Chen's voice hardened. I don't have time for your pride, Admiral. Upload the AI or watch your fleet burn. Choose now. The Scourge were reforming, preparing another push. Her remaining ships scattered in defensive patterns that looked increasingly desperate. 1,500 vessels against an enemy that grew stronger with every passing moment. She nodded to her systems officer. The upload took 3 seconds. Kessisvol felt her ship's systems shift as something else took control of her tactical grid. The AI spoke in a flat, inhuman voice that reminded her uncomfortably of Captain Chen's effect. Fleet assets cataloged. Defensive formation Alpha 7-9 engaging. All ships execute on my mark. The Union fleet moved as one for the first time in 6 hours. Ships she'd thought scattered reformed into a geodesic pattern, point defense systems creating interlocking fields. Damaged vessels pulled to the center, fresh ships rotated to the front line. It looked like something alive, breathing, adapting. The Scourge hit them like a hammer. But this time, the Union fleet didn't break. The AI anticipated every move, shifted formations to present maximum firepower, rotated damaged sections away from engagement. Ships that would have died alone survived through coordinated support. The Scourge's advantage in numbers crashed against tactical precision they'd never encountered, and through it all, the Indomitable prowled like a shark, hitting weak points, executing bioships that broke formation, moving with a violence that felt personal. Captain Chen, Kessisvol transmitted, your tactics are working. But we still can't win. There are too many. Trying to survive. The human ship barrel rolled through a spread of biomatter projectiles. The Scourge are predators, too. Apex predators. But they've never met humans before. They don't know what we are. What are you... Toward the megastructure at the center of their formation, the thing the Union had designated Scourge Prime. The Queen ship that coordinated all the others. A bioconstruct the size of a moon. We've hit it with everything. It regenerates faster than we can damage it. You hit it with energy weapons. Elegant. Civilized. Stupid. The Indomitable's railguns began charging, visible as electromagnetic signatures that lit up every sensor. I brought kinetic penetrators, depleted uranium cores, each one massing 40 tons. That's... Yes. Captain Chen's voice carried something that might have been a smile. Watch what barbaric can do. The Indomitable unleashed everything. Railgun rounds that crossed the distance in heartbeats, nuclear-tipped missiles that didn't care about point defense systems because they detonated if intercepted, and something else. Something that made Kessvol's blood run cold. Mass drivers. Huge chunks of metal accelerated to relativistic speeds. Weapons so primitive, so basic, that the Union had abandoned them before achieving spaceflight. Weapons that couldn't be stopped because they were just metal moving very, very fast. They hit Scourge Prime like the fist of an angry god. The megastructure's bioarmor, evolved over millions of years to deflect energy weapons and adapt to exotic physics, meant nothing against simple kinetic force. The projectiles punched through kilometers of organic matter, and when the nuclear warheads detonated inside, Scourge Prime didn't regenerate. It screamed. The sound came across electromagnetic, gravitational, even quantum frequencies, a death wail that shook space itself. And across the battlefield, every Scourge bioship convulsed. They're colony organisms, Captain Chen explained calmly as the enemy fleet began tearing itself apart. Kill the Queen, the drones lose coordination. Basic biology. Because you fight civilized. Clean. Honorable. The Indomitable fired one last spread of missiles into Scourge Prime's core. We fight to win. The megastructure exploded. Not in fire, but in a catastrophic failure of biological systems. It came apart like a corpse in vacuum, and with it, the Scourge offensive collapsed. Bioships that had moved with perfect coordination moments before now drifted, fired randomly or fled in panic. The human AI's voice cut through. Fleet assets, pursue and destroy. No survivors. And the Union fleet, reduced and battered, fell upon the Scourge like the predators Captain Chen had told them to be. The battle lasted another 47 minutes. When it ended, The space around the station was filled with debris, both biological and mechanical, and the Scourge were gone. Kessisful stood on her bridge, looking at the casualty reports. 700 Union ships destroyed, 18,000 crew lost, but they'd survived. The Scourge advance had been stopped for the first time since the war began. Admiral Casvol, this is Chen. Casvol straightened. I need to thank you. What you did, I followed orders. The human's voice was flat again. The Queen called. We answered. That's the arrangement. Help us coordinate the defense. Silence stretched for long seconds. Then Captain Chen spoke again, and something in her tone made Kesvol's skin prickle. No, the treaty allows one ship, one mission. We're done.
A pause? But Admiral, you need to understand something.
The Indomitable isn't our warship. It's a transport. We loaded it with missiles and railguns for this mission, stripped out the cargo holds and bolted weapons onto a freighter. The words took a moment to penetrate. You fought the Scourge in a cargo vessel? We don't have warships anymore, Admiral. You made us dismantle them. This was the best we could do. Captain Chen's voice carried no accusation, just fact. If the Queen wants our real help, she knows where to find us. But next time, it won't be one ship. It'll be the fleet you made us destroy. The fleet we've been rebuilding in secret for 20 years. Because humans don't trust promises of peace. We never have. The transmission cut. Kesval watched the Indomitable turn and burn toward the edge of the system, its engines pushing it to speeds that still defied understanding. In 48 hours, it would be back in human space, back in quarantine, and the Union would pretend this never happened. But she would remember. Would remember that somewhere in the dark, beyond the border, humanity waited. Not civilized, not peaceful, just ready. Her tactical officer approached carefully. Ma'am, should we inform the other fleets? Share the human tactics? Kesval looked at the debris field, at the shattered remains of Scourge Prime drifting through space. She thought about Queen Shiera's final words. This conversation never happened. Log it as a tactical victory achieved through adaptive formation strategies, she said quietly. No mention of external support. But the crew saw. What they saw is classified under sovereign security protocols. Anyone who speaks of it will face sedition charges. She turned to face her bridge crew, all of them watching her with wide eyes. The Union survived through unity and coordination. That's the official record. Understood? They didn't like it, but they understood. Kesval returned to her viewport. In the distance, the Indomitable was almost invisible, just a dark speck against darker space. She wondered what Captain Chen was thinking. Wondered if the human felt anything about saving billions of lives. Wondered if humans felt anything at all, or if war had burned emotion out of them centuries ago.
Her comm chimed.
Private channel. Queen Shiera. Admiral. Report. The Scourge advance has been stopped, Your Majesty. Casualties are high but acceptable. The civilian sectors are secure. And the humans? Returning to their spaces agreed. They ask. Kesval paused. They ask that if you need them again, you call properly, with all ships. No half measures. Shiera was quiet for a long time. Did they say anything else? Captain Chen indicated they've been rebuilding their military in violation of the treaty. The Queen's voice held something that might have been regret. We pretend not to notice because the alternative is war with humanity. And after today, Admiral, do you want that war? Kesval looked at the tactical data, at the brutal efficiency of human warfare, at the casualties one converted freighter had inflicted. She imagined 1,000 ships like the Indomitable. 10,000. A species that had never known peace, never stopped innovating weapons, never lost the edge that the Union had deliberately bred out of its member races. No, Your Majesty, I don't. Then we maintain the quarantine. We forget this happened, and we pray the Scourge don't come back. Shiera paused. Because next time, the price of human help might be higher than we can pay. The transmission ended. Kesval ordered her fleet to begin rescue operations, to recover survivors, to start the long process of rebuilding. But part of her mind stayed with the Indomitable, burning toward home through the dark. 3 days later, the Union's analysis teams delivered their report on the battle. The human tactics had been studied, dissected, and ultimately classified as too dangerous for general distribution. The weapons were deemed barbaric and banned under 18 different treaties. The AI that had coordinated the Union fleet was flagged as a potential threat and purged from all systems. Official records showed that Admiral Kessvoll had rallied her forces through brilliant tactical innovation, adapting to Scourge behavior and exploiting a previously unknown weakness in their colony structure. She received the Star of Unity, the Union's highest military honor. At the ceremony, Queen Shiera herself placed the crystalline medal against Kessvoll's chest. "You saved us, Admiral," the Queen said for the cameras. "I did my duty, Your Majesty," Kessvoll replied, the lie tasting like ash. But at night, in her quarters, she would pull up the classified recordings, watch the indomitable tear through the Scourge fleet, listen to Captain Chen's voice, calm and cold, as she described Union tactics as stupid and prey-like. And Kessvoll would wonder. The Scourge did come back. 4 months later, a fleet of bioships that had learned from the first encounter, adapted their tactics, evolved new defenses. They hit hard and fast, overwhelming local defenses before the Union could coordinate a response. The distress call went out across all frequencies, and on the edge of human space, aboard a vessel that wasn't the Indomitable but looked eerily similar, Captain Sarah Chen received the transmission. She sat in her command chair, surrounded by younger officers who had never seen combat, who had only trained in simulations against enemies that didn't exist in the Union's sanitized records. "Captain?" Her tactical officer looked at her with eager eyes. "Should we respond?" Chen watched the distress call scroll across her screen, watched the casualty numbers rise, thought about Queen Shiera's last message: 1 ship, 1 mission. "No," she said quietly. "We wait." "We gave her 1 ship. She saw what we could do, what we are." Chen leaned back, her face showing nothing. "If she wants more, she calls with a better offer. We don't come running every time someone screams. That's not how negotiations work." The tactical officer looked uncomfortable. "But the civilians, not our responsibility." Chen pulled up the treaty that had quarantined humanity, that had forced them to dismantle their fleets, that had treated them like rabid dogs too dangerous to exist among civilized species. The Union made their choice about us 20 years ago. Now they live with it. Each one more desperate than the last. The Scourge were advancing, consuming, growing, and humanity sat silent at the edge of their quarantine zone, watching. Finally, the transmission they'd been waiting for arrived. Not a distress call, not a request. An official diplomatic channel opened directly from Queen Shiera's throne world to the human homeworld of Earth. Chen wasn't authorized to see it, but she heard the results. The quarantine was lifted. The treaties were renegotiated, and humanity was offered full membership in the Galactic Union with one condition. They would serve as the Union's military arm, the predators leashed but aimed. The violent civilized species couldn't embrace themselves, outsourced to the one species that had never learned to stop fighting. Captain Chen received her new orders 6 hours later. Deploy with the 3rd Human Fleet to reinforce Union positions in the Tertian sector. Full weapons authorization, no restrictions. She looked at the deployment roster. 300 ships. Real warships, not converted freighters. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a planet. All of them crewed by humans who had spent 20 years in forced isolation, growing more resentful with each passing day. "Navigation," she said calmly. "Plot a course to the rally point. Communications. Transmit to Fleet Command. Indomitable is ready to deploy." "Yes, ma'am." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency, the simulation training finally becoming real. Chen pulled up the tactical data on the Scourge, studied their patterns, their biology, their weaknesses, thought about what 300 human warships could do to an enemy that adapted and evolved, thought about weapons the Union had never seen, strategies they'd find horrifying, tactics that violated every civilized rule of engagement. The Scourge were predators. Apex predators that had consumed 17 civilizations. But they'd never met humanity. And humans, Captain Sarah Chen thought was something that might have been a smile, were the apex predators of apex predators. The species that had climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world and then looked at the stars and wondered what else they could kill. The 3rd Human Fleet burned for the front lines, and across the Galactic Union, civilized species watched with a mixture of relief and terror as the monsters they'd caged were finally set loose. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the Scourge had emerged from the dark between galaxies, they were about to learn what it meant to be prey.